to walk, even talk again. And now he's finally back in the spotlight and on stage once more.
Ladies and gentlemen, Siegfried and Roy.
In a town full of big names, theirs became the biggest. With their menagerie of exotic tigers and lions, these self-proclaimed masters of the impossible earned more money than any other act in the history of Las Vegas, a staggering $57 million a year. Night after night, for more than 5,000 performances, Siegfried and Roy dazzled sellout crowds. Through it all, they never seemed to miss a step, nor did their feline co-stars. And then, in the middle of just another performance on a Friday night, 5.5 years ago,
Horn was attacked in the throat by one of those tigers, lost a huge amount of blood.
it stopped.
You never thought this could happen.
That night in the hospital, the doctors gave you a really grim prognosis.
Oh, yes. And they told me he was clinical dead 3 times.
3 times?
Yes. And they tell me he will never will talk, never will speak.
Never speak,
will walk.
never walk?
No, this is the way how it's gonna be.
Did you think that that was the case? Did you, in that moment?
No. For some reason, I know. Or if, I always thought also in that case, I guess, somehow we're gonna pull it through.
And Siegfried was right.
My doctor had told me that within 1 year I will be able to do everything I want to do.
1 year from now?
Yeah.
Much of the attention these past 5 years has been on Roy and his miraculous recovery. What has never been talked about is what Siegfried was going through.
I was so alone and I was so lost. And of course I got in depression. But the depression was more because of the show.
Because it was over?
Because it was over, without realizing it is.
It was Roy who helped Siegfried recover from his depression, and the two are now leaning on each other once more as they reunite a final time
A good time.
to perform again as Siegfried and Roy. The decision came about at a fundraiser for the Lou Ruvo Brain Institute, the new state-of-the-art medical facility being built in Las Vegas to treat diseases of the mind, like Alzheimer's, Lou Gehrig's disease, and Parkinson's.
Roy was flying 40 feet high above the audience.
Siegfried has spent months designing new illusions that take into account Roy's current physical condition.
A fire ring revolved around him.
Siegfried supervises as the ballroom at the Bellagio Hotel is transformed into a one-night-only reincarnation of the Siegfried and Roy Theater. With only a day to go, Siegfried and Roy and their beloved tigers begin to rehearse. Snacking backstage, the tigers seem pretty relaxed. But for Siegfried, the reality that he'll soon be back performing in front of a live audience is nearly terrifying.
I'm sick, nervous, but also I'm excited.
He was really nervous. And Diane, it's important to note that the same tiger that ended everything that night 5.5 years ago, Montecore, will be on the stage with the two of them again in this final illusion they're doing to raise a lot of money for charity, for a good cause.
You know, it is a story of devotion in so many ways. And watching Siegfried, don't I remember that he had a bout with with depression and addiction before?
He had a bout with addiction with Valium many years ago, and he freely admits that when he went into this deep spiral of depression, he ran away, began to take too many antidepressants, needed to get that back in check, and sought a lot of therapy, and that was what got him through it. So he really suffered from that classic caregiver's syndrome.
And I know they go sort of frame by frame with you through what's on the tape of that night, and you can see all of this, by the way. Siegfried and Roy, The Magic Returns. It is a special edition of ABC News 2020. Elizabeth Vargas, Friday night at 9 o'clock, 8 Central. Don't miss it. Now.